Welcome to Object of the Game. I'm Maureen Kyle alongside Chuck Kyle, longtime football coach and my father. So you're going to hear me call him Dad a few times. We have a jam-packed show today. We're going to do a little bit of a recap, kind of like in case you missed it, because we are kind of a new show. And there's some episodes that you might not have seen where we're going to reflect on what some of our guests have talked about, especially when it comes to playing sports, what they've learned from sports, the lessons they've learned, resiliency. It's incredible. But, Dad, we also have a very special guest today.
I will emphasize that. Definitely a special guest. David Gilbert. I'm going to tell you, this man is a hero in Cleveland. He's going to be embarrassed, but I believe he is a president of the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission, doing amazing things. Mark your calendar. It's coming up February 6th, right? The Greater Cleveland Sports Awards ceremony. It's going to be special. Just listening to him talk, this is going to be very special. Certainly, he's been involved with the Cleveland Convention Visitor Bureau, just bringing important events to Cleveland. And this is a guy. Yeah. He is a guy. So kudos to him.
Yeah. David, thank you so much for taking the time, first of all.
Well,
thanks for being here.
To hear your dad, to hear those words come from him means quite a lot.
But it's true. I mean, we have had so many great events, especially sporting events coming here. And it's really shining a light on Cleveland. And, you know, Clevelanders, Ohioans, we all like to see our cities in the spotlight. Like we're famous. See, look, we're we mean something. And you've had a couple really big ones recently. Looking back, like, what do you think? We're going to talk about what's to come, but like over the past couple of years, what do you think has been the biggest for our area?
Yeah, we just finished this really fantastic run that, unlike many cities have ever had, we're in about a 5-year period of time. We had MLB All-Star Game, we had NFL Draft, we had NBA All-Star Game, we had Women's Final Four, and I think it's a culmination of, you know, certainly hard work, and we could talk about all that. These are all very competitive, but I think we've really developed a reputation as a city as being one of the top cities in this country for hosting major events. And our ability to do it well, to know that these events are successful when they're here. And there's a lot that goes into getting it, a lot that goes into why they're more successful when they're here. But I think at the end of the day, having that reputation and maintaining it is what's critical.
Yeah, the ability to bring corporation together to help sponsor events like those. I mean, this doesn't just happen, right? And the ability to have that kind of people working together, it makes this happen. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's an enormous group effort. And obviously,
Right.
Our organization is the sort of the lead, but we cannot do it without amazing partnerships with across so many public, private, civic, whether it's the city and county, the corporate community, the Cavs, the Guardians, the Browns, and many others. But, you know, when we just had Women's Final Four. Well, that was an event that, you know, we needed a lot of partners, Mid-American Conference, a huge, but we also had to go out and raise several $1 million. And this community was very generous, understood what it would bring, the tens and tens of millions of dollars it would bring in economic impact. And Maureen, to your point, the national notoriety. And then, you know, what we love is the legacy many of these things leave. And It goes above and beyond. Oftentimes, after the event leaves, what we have, look, when we have, you know, a lot of what we also do are big events that we bring to town that you don't know about on the media. We talk about big youth volleyball tournaments or the World Yo-Yo Championship or NCAA Division III baseball.
My kids were in one of those. You can guess which one.
There it is. It's memorable moment.
Exactly. But they all take a big effort. You don't know about a lot of them, but every one of them, it's about economic impact. It's last year, we had 20 national events hosted in Cleveland that we brought to town, about $100 million in impact. But that's the common denominator. But then you get those big opportunities like Women's Final Four that you know are going to leave an even longer lasting legacy, which is pretty neat.
That event, people in history, has changed just the format of girls basketball. Yeah. I mean, now you have young girls ready to do it after that event, and here it was in Cleveland, and the way things happened, it was just more people on TV watched the women's Final Four than the men's.
Yes.
And here it was in
cool.
Cleveland, Ohio. How about that one?
Yeah.
David,
Awesome.
You had to be sort of, I mean, proud probably doesn't even cover it, but as that's unfolding, and we have Caitlin Clark here, and like everybody in Cleveland can come and get tickets and watch Caitlin Clark. As you're going through that, like what was going through your mind living through that tournament?
Aren't we lucky?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were awarded that event probably over 5 years before.
Yeah.
So, certainly we've known we hosted it back in '07. We were fortunate enough to get it again, and it was great over those years in between watching the growth of women's collegiate basketball and WNBA. But, to hit the lottery, if you will, of the phenomenon of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. I mean, there was more to it.
Oh,
And then
yes.
both of them making the Final Four, and it was really something. And there was so much about the event last year that had never happened that Cleveland was the beneficiary of. Certainly the media, but also the number of people who came. And it wasn't just about, it was going to sell out no matter what. It became I think for the first time ever, truly a celebrity event. Maybe in many ways on par with the NBA All-Star game that we had a year and a half prior. That people came, even if they didn't have a ticket, they wanted to be in Cleveland just to be around it, which was great for Cleveland, also great for women's sports.
I mean, there's no way 5-6 years ago
Yeah, you don't
you
know
could
who played.
anticipate that. Hey, how nice. We're going to have that event. And it just exploded. All the kids that would the kids go to those games and see the quality of play.
Yeah.
Those little girls had basketball in their hands right
we had
after
10,000 plus go to open practice.
Yeah.
I mean, just to watch a practice was pretty special.
That was amazing. How many just watched the practices.
Yep.
What an event. And the energy needed to pull that off. Oh my, that's amazing.
Well, I think that's one thing where I think as a community we've learned really well. Our business model is we're a small nonprofit organization,
Right.
But our business model is focused on providing more services to these events than what other cities would do. And we're not a big organization. We have 15 full-time people, a few part-time. In our world, in the sports commission world, it's big, but most of that staff is focused on the events, not on us. And so whether it's small things we do for the youth volleyball tournaments to get them to choose Cleveland instead of another place, or big events like Women's Final Four that take enormous amounts of time and energy, and then it's about the partnership. So that Women's Final Four in all those years, we were joined at the hip with the Cavs, joined at the hip with the Mid-American Conference, with the city, many other organizations in the city playing their part. And if you don't have that collaboration, you can't make it happen.
What other cities should see as a result of this is Cleveland can teach other cities about corporation involvement, collaboration with people, businesses, and so on to make events like that. That's what this man, he's the guy. I mean, he's the guy that kept this thing going and provided the opportunities for these corporations to be involved with that.
We're very fortunate. We do have great support, but I think it took time when we started the organization 25 years ago. It took time. Last, I'd say 10, 12 years, we got to a point where people really understood what this could mean to the community. That it's not just, wouldn't it be fun to host these events? It's big dollars. In fact, I won't say exactly what it is. We have a big announcement at our sports awards, our 25th anniversary we hit a big milestone in terms of economic impact collectively. Mm-hmm. And that's where some of us sit back and say, wow, crazy amounts of money being spent. And ultimately that translates into not only taxes and dollars into people's pockets, but more people wanting to move here and take jobs here. And there's bigger effects. It's one thing about sports. It's such a unifier, and people pay attention to it. And when those things happen, the fact that it's not an accident that Cleveland has chosen to do those things. And when we're fortunate to have those big events where Cleveland is showcased off the hardwood or the turf, whatever it is, it really makes a difference in changing people's perceptions about Cleveland.
Right. There's a reason to go to Cleveland, Ohio. This sporting event. They come, they leave and go, great town.
Yes.
Had a lot of fun. Restaurants were great. Lake is right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what we have to offer, and that's the positive thing.
Yeah, and I think even more now with social media, where if one person has a great time, they may tell 1,000,
Right.
and it just it does make a huge difference.
Yeah. I mean, everybody taking their videos and showing I'm down from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and I'm at this tournament, and that has to help. You grew up a Cleveland sports fan, am I right?
I did.
What,
I
like,
did.
who was the team? Who were the players? Like, do you have memories from that?
A lot. I mean,
Yeah.
I probably like you. You know, I grew up in just great memories of going to games with my dad and my brother and friends, and you know. I was a huge baseball fan,
Yeah.
and just so many memories of being at a lot. It's easy and cheap to go to baseball games back
Right.
back in
Right.
the
Oh, yeah.
70s, 80s.
Tickets were available.
Yes,
Right.
they were. Yes, they were. And we didn't have a lot of money. Those were
Mhm.
yeah, I think, through the years, the late 80s Browns was just such a, amazing team. I think probably for me, the 95, 6, 7, 8 Indians at the time was probably what like I'm endeared most to. I just I was out of college back in Cleveland, probably spent, far more of my disposable income on those games. But in Cleveland going to the World Series during that time and it's all of our teams. I love the Mark Price, Brad
Oh, yeah.
Doherty,
Sure.
Larry Nance years of the Cavs, but the championship in 16 is a life highlight.
Right.
And so we've been fortunate to have a lot of amazing, even though we didn't win as championships, we had
Yes.
a lot of pride with people who wore the Cleveland jersey.
Yeah, let's be honest. You went to Ohio State, and
Yeah.
he's coming out, and probably you had classmates going, "You're going back where? To Cleveland?" I mean, you could go out there,
Yeah.
right? You're going back to that city that had a river on fire,
Yep.
Yeah.
right? I mean, I remember witnessing. I actually witnessed that.
I know. Little
Working.
known fact, he watched the
I
river burn.
saw the river burning because
saw the
I
river
was I just graduated from high school. I had a summer job in the steel mills,
Yeah.
doing maintenance. And I looked down, and the river was on fire. I mean, what an!
By the way, that's
And we were
not-
the laughing stock
Yeah.
of America.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
incredible.
Yes.
And you had to come and sell that.
But that's why I kind of bring it up is, when I feel like Cleveland especially has such a reputation, as you mentioned, a sports town, and people are so passionate about it. And we're always trying to get rid of the reputation of
Yes.
the mistake on the lake and the burning river and all
Right.
of that. How important was it for you to come back and make that your mission of pushing this as a sports town and making sure that that's how we're known?
Yeah, it wasn't what I didn't even know this kind of work existed. I
Mhm.
didn't know I wanted to come back to Cleveland. I just did. I had a job out of college for a year where I was fortunate enough to do nothing but travel, but knowing it was a year, and then I was able to come back. And my wife's, we met in college. She's not from here. She knew she would come here, and then not going through the long story, but I got into civic nonprofit work, and it helped me fall in love with Cleveland more, and was given the opportunity to develop the business model and ultimately, start this new iteration of the Sports Commission. And I think it combined a lot of passions for me, which I'm very, lucky about. I mean, love sports, love Cleveland, love the ability to sell this city. And you sort of, you put on that Cleveland jersey every day. And I feel very, very lucky to be able to do that.
Yeah, to me, that's a vocation as opposed to career. Career, there's people that do careers, and careers are wonderful. But what you heard, that's a tremendous explanation of what a vocation is to what you do in life. Wonderful. Good stuff.
Yeah. Let's talk about the award ceremony coming up. Are you allowed to talk about what's happening?
You
How much
can't
can
say
you
everything,
reveal?
right?
Really, at this point, because a lot has come out about everything. So
Yeah.
All right.
we started the event 25 years ago. This will be the 25th anniversary. It really was a combination of two things, and still is. It's the one big fundraiser for the Sports Commission, and it raises probably a third of our operating budget for the year. But really, we want to create a very special celebration of all Cleveland sports, sort of an ESPYs of Cleveland at all levels: high school, collegiate, professional, and so on.
Yeah. Even the young kids are there.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate from day one to have all three of the teams deeply involved. And it's now probably the biggest of its kind in the country. So it's February 6th, Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, and a couple of the really big things. So we're doing a really special event around the 30th anniversary of the 95 World Series Indians. So we're doing about a 25-minute fireside chat, and Jim Thome is coming in, Kenny Lofton, Mike Hargrove, Charles Nagy. There may be one or two more, and Chris Rose, who's from Cleveland. We're tying a lot. He was the third ever host of our event back in whatever year that might have been. He's coming in to do that. It's going to be a big part of the night. Dan Gilbert is accepting our Lifetime Achievement Award, which you have won, and we are thrilled that he's coming in to be there and do he doesn't appear in public as much, and do a whole fireside chat. A lot of the other we're naming our Courage Award in memory of Jim Donovan, which will be beautiful, and many other all of the awards and some other special things. We're incorporating a lot of moments from the past 25 years. A lot of other award winners. Rajai Davis is going to be there. Boobie Gibbs. A lot of sports celebrities. The one thing that's great this year is it's always been it's in a kind of an expensive fundraiser, and so we get a lot of people, 1,200-1,300 people. We started a section this year, now that we're Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, called the Die Hard District, where for $75 you can come in for the whole 2-hour show, and there's a free after party with food and drink. And I think we're going to have many, many hundreds of people who we said, can we do it in an affordable way just to add more energy? We have this great show. Yeah. How can we do it in a way that's not just the people who can pay a lot of money to be at one of the tables? Mm-hmm. So we're really excited. This will be the first year that we're offering that.
That's great. That'll definitely.
Yeah.
You'll get a bigger crowd.
Yeah.
It's a big crowd now, but you're going to get a huge crowd. Wow.
I mean, those members of the then Indians that you named. I mean, if you're a Cleveland sports fan, you want to see those guys in person.
Yeah.
So that. And when you say fireside chat, what does that mean?
Basically, a kind of an intimate interview. We've even changed up. We're going to have 2 different stages. So the fireside chats are going to be a little more intimate stage and more just, we've always had a lot of celebrities, if you will, there. Current, former professional athletes, Olympians, so on. But usually when you see them and you hear from them, it's in 90-second clips. We say, you know what? If you have these amazing people there, people want to get to know them more. So we're doing more, instead of a big monologue at the start from an MC, we're doing more of hearing from those, those special people who have ties to Cleveland, hearing from them for an extended period. And the one thing I've just always loved with that event is it's hard not to feel great about Cleveland. The whole basis is celebrating sports from the past year. So this is all focused, this year's event, on 2024 and the public, and we have a big committee that votes on the award winners. But even in lean years when we've had our teams that haven't done as well, there's always amazing accomplishments to celebrate. And I just feel like every year you just feel so great about our city and what sports means to this city.
Yeah, it's really an amazing event. Quick story. We got an award. We played Menor in a triple overtime game, right? Mitch Trubisky. Mm-hmm. Okay, yep. Right?
Yep.
And, that game, you decided to celebrate. I want to do this quickly, right? So Trevisano and I go up to the thing, and of course they won. Trubisky hits the pass. That's life. I go, and we get a trophy too. And I turn to the audience going, Cleveland is such a great sports town. We get a trophy and we lost the game.
Yeah.
What other city would have that? Right? It's just, giving me a trophy for that?
Yeah.
But that's
I remember that very well.
Yeah. Yes. David, before we let you go, and I know you have a ton to do in setting up all these events and everything, so I know you're on a tight timeline, but do you have one story that you, like, when you look back years from now, when you do retire, like, when you look back, you're going to go, gosh, that was it. That was the moment that I will always remember.
I'm not a sort of a stargazer type, and I will say what this job has afforded me is an opportunity to be around some neat things and neat people. And I think there are probably 2 over the years that were special to me because I happened to spend time with, one was Billie Jean King, one was Jim Brown. And in both cases, didn't talk a word of sports. Spent time, and Billie Jean King asked me about my daughter, and she was such an incredible person. And Jim Brown, he was signing stuff. We spent about 45 minutes or an hour just talking. I didn't talk about football once, but it was all about his work with American and inner city kids. I thought, what an amazing human, those things he did. And it was, I just have a lot of respect for people who what you love about them is not what they did on the field or on the court. In the case of Billie Jean King. And those to me were highlights that not about being at a particular event, but just really being impressed with the people. And that always meant a lot to me.
Amazing, David.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
Well, David, thank you so much. Tickets are on sale.
Yeah, you could go on. It's just clevelandsportsawards.com, and everything's on there of how to get tickets. The auction opens up soon, and it'll give the whole rundown. But it's going to be a really fun night to celebrate Cleveland.
You've done such great work. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, I have a Shakespeare quote for you.
Oh, you get a quote.
I am not shocked.
I
to hear
have
that.
a Shakespeare.
I want to hear it.
She got me into that. I was okay. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, I got one. I think it fits.
Okay.
King Lear. All right, tragedy.
Yes,
But a
we've
different one.
quoted.
Okay,
King
we did
Lear on
have
this
that one
show
before.
Mhm.
Okay, but I thought this was perfect for him. I will persevere in my course of loyalty. It's a battle.
Mhm.
It's a struggle, and I will persevere. Human beings need to persevere. Things don't always go well. But your
that
loyalty,
word of
your
loyalty in
loyalty.
Cleveland
Yeah.
is synonymous.
This guy, okay,
Yeah.
I know I said it enough, but his loyalty to Cleveland is amazing, and we all benefit because of your efforts.
Oh, thank you. I feel lucky to do what I do.
No, we're lucky too. All right.
David, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. We'll have to have you back.
Done.
Yeah,
All right.
there's
Done.
always events, obviously.
Very
right?
true.
We got to get the inside scoop on
Yes.
this.
Yes,
So,
yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, David.
And we'll be right back with more Object of the Game. Welcome back to Object of the Game. We were just talking with David Gilbert, president of the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission. He's also president, CEO of Destination Cleveland. He's the man who brought in all of our major events that we've been going to. And Dad, when we were talking about guests that we can have on this show, he was like top of the list. You really wanted to bring him in, and of course we can see why.
Right. The people, again, the sports commission before he took it over was nothing. I mean, it really wasn't. It was nice to talk about, but nothing was happening.
Yeah.
And through his efforts, you can tell in the interview, he really believes in this. This is something that he is in like a vocation to him, his love of Cleveland. And I'm going to quote him because this is his attitude towards Cleveland. Someone asked him, capture the spirit of Cleveland in a few words, and he, quote, "We're resilient, we take chances, we know how to take a punch and get back up."
Yeah.
And that's the guy that's bringing in talk about the events and young kids going to those events going, hey, me too someday, right? That's educationally, how important. And to bring in that type of business to Cleveland, you need people like that that love the city and have that kind of energy.
Yeah. Yeah. He does a lot of great things. We want to get into a segment now is sort of in case you missed it, because we are a new show. We are picking up steam as we do more and more episodes. But as we were reflecting on who we've had on in the past, and as I've been talking to friends and they say, oh, I watched this one or I watched that one, you and we have these guests in, and then we don't really get a chance to expand on the lessons that they drop on us here.
Right.
They drop some major knowledge and then walk out the door and we go, wow, that was amazing.
Yeah, being an ex-teacher, I could assign a test, see if you paid attention out there.
Yeah.
So what
Essays.
we're going to do could be a review for the test.
Yeah.
Picture it that way. How's
This
that?
is it. But
Yeah.
I think that there were a couple guests, and I mean, there are so many that have been phenomenal, and we'll do a recap show every once in a while. But Brian Barron, the president of business operations for the Cleveland Guardians. Now, this is somebody who's not in the forefront all the time. Like you might not know his name, but what he does, you benefit as a Guardians fan from all of the work that he does. But Dad, I remember you bringing him in because of his college background and what he went through.
Right.
If you can kind of set that up.
Right. Just very, very quickly. Brian's dad was a high school football coach, teacher. And he played multiple sports. But here's the important thing. Yes, he had the opportunity to go to Princeton University, play football, but I mean, come on, he ended up being second team, which is fine. But what he ended up doing then was do what a member of a team should do. What can I do to make it a better team? And I'm just hoping people heard that, because I always believed, football game begins and there's 11 guys run out there, but there's a bunch of other guys. And to me, in history that I witnessed, those guys that were the backups, they went on to do amazing things. They really did. They CEOs of Brian's an example of this, right? Because why? They learned to take their ego and throw it in the back seat and go, what's good for the team?
Right.
I'm going to help this team. And that lesson is unbelievable as you look in history.
Yeah. So that's what he's about to talk about here. Then we'll recap and chat about that a little bit more in that lesson, because it's lessons that we all need to learn. So here's our conversation with Brian Barron.
I'm going to move to college. We can come back because we're going to talk about things you learned.
Sure.
I got all these themes I sent to you. We could be doing this for a while, but I didn't know.
That's okay. I got all day.
But you have a really interesting story. You go to Princeton University because you ran a certain offense. They got to understand, but also some interesting things that happen there that I will just say, when you have a team and you play in sports, it's always nice to be in the spotlight, but there's a lot of people that make sacrifices. And I think you have a story that people would like to hear. So if you would.
So
Princeton University, you end up
Princeton
there
University, I ended up there because Princeton fired their coaching staff in the fall of my senior year of high school. And it's the Ivy League. It's not the Big Ten. I wasn't good enough to play at Ohio State, although that would have been a dream of mine growing up outside of Columbus. So as they brought in a new staff, they brought in a staff that ran the offense that I had run in high school. And as a coach's son, and I was the fourth of the boys in the family, I had an opportunity to watch my older brothers. I was a ball boy and watched films, and I was able to learn a lot as a younger boy about the system and what to look for and how to run the offense. So as a new staff came in, they got a late start recruiting, and things happen for a reason sometimes. And I think I was fortunate that they really didn't have a lot of time to recruit. The previous staff had recruited a couple of traditional drop back passers, 6'3", 6'4". I was closer to 6 feet, and I was a run pass type of a quarterback, and had that background in the offense. So that I was good enough. I wasn't great. I was a good enough student. I wasn't great. And I was able to get an Army ROTC scholarship that paid for college, and that was a great deal. I paid the Army back afterwards as a tank commander. But that set the table to get in, and I think the experience I had playing football in college is one of the greatest experiences of my life.
All right. The wing tee, wasn't it?
Yes, it was the wing tee.
For those, nowadays, people, I don't know if youth know what the wing tee is. I really don't,
It looked like one of those old offenses now.
But it's one of those where, people don't know who has the ball. And trying to coach against it was always, the first quarter was terrible when you're trying to coach against it, because it's all misdirection. Yeah. And, as much as you could practice against it, actually, I remember, we're not even going to use a ball during practice, just run the play, and everybody's got to go to their right spot. First quarter, we were always behind, at least by 7 points. Fellas, what we practice this for? Yeah. But it's a very good offense. Yes. It was fun, and they brought you in. Now, the idea with Jason Garrett, you were quarterbacking, right?
Yes.
And then the idea was going to be a receiver, right, or something like that.
Yeah. So when I went to Princeton as a freshman in the mid 1980s, Jason, a product of the university school here in Cleveland, was actually a year ahead of me out of high school. And back then, you had to play freshman football to adjust academically in the Ivy League. Jason had transferred from Princeton to Columbia, where his father had taken the head coaching job. Right. And I went in and started as a freshman on our freshman team. Jason ended up transferring back to Princeton. His father stepped down after one season at Columbia, and he lost a year of eligibility in the process. So he became not only a teammate but a classmate, and I learned a valuable lesson at I don't know, 18 or 19 years of age. Jason was obviously a better quarterback than I was. He went on and played in the NFL as a player for the Cowboys and a few other teams, won a few Super Bowl rings, and was a coach in the NFL. But you're faced with that adversity of quit because someone's better than you, or compete to your fullest potential. And I became a better quarterback on and off the field as a result of Jason transferring back. And in those days, he lost that year of eligibility. There was no NIL. There was no transfer portal. I learned how to watch film. I learned how to prepare and practice. I learned how to read defenses better. I learned how to work with different receivers and understand their cuts, where they may settle in a zone coverage, where they might have an advantage if it were man-to-man.
Right.
A lot of those nuances came from very, very deep planning and preparation, and a lot of off-the-field work that I learned from one of the best in Jason Garrett. That puts you in a position to compete. Oftentimes, when you're learning a new offense or learning anything new in the business world, you go through a phase where whatever that new thing is, it's fast. The speed, the tempo of trying to learn that, it's almost overwhelming. You have to learn the plays. Then you practice those plays. You just got to run them again and again and repeat those. And then over time, the speed of that game or that task starts to slow down, and then you can start to play the game.
Right.
And I really learned how to do that as a result of backing Jason up for a couple years at Princeton.
Yeah, yeah. Being the backup quarterback, right? I mean, you could, with all your background, right? You could have gone, hey, can I play safety? Can I play receiver?
Yes.
Can I? Because I'm backing them up, and in a way, that was you sacrificed to work with Jason.
Yes.
I mean, I can picture games, right? He's out there and you're communicating. They always have the other quarterback, I don't know,
Yes.
signaling or
Yes.
doing right. I mean,
Yes.
that side of thing. And timeout or something, they come off, or it's the defense is out there. And here you are working, but he's the guy out there. But you're involved all with the preparation, everything. I mean, that stays with you. That whole approach,
it really
doesn't it?
does. And I did, going into our senior year, the coaches allowed me to switch to receiver in spring football. And I had a chance to compete at wide receiver. And the night before our first game, the coaches said, listen, even though you would see playing time tomorrow at receiver, we're going to ask you to just be our backup quarterback for a lot of reasons. In the Ivy League, if Jason had gotten hurt or if I'd gotten hurt at receiver, the gap may have been too big to our third string quarterback. So Jason was part of that meeting with the head coach to deliver that news. And at the end of the day, again, you can learn from that experience and say, what's best for the team?
Right.
What puts the team in a position to compete and win? Or what's best for me? And in those moments, you really learn the importance of team is more important than me. And that's a lesson that certainly in the business world and the working world, I've been able to carry with me time and again.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we are going to talk about everything that Brian just talked about, and we're going to get Chuck Kyle's take. Welcome back to Object of the Game. We are doing a little bit of a recap of some of the previous episodes and some of the conversations that we think you should hear and that you should really think about. So we just talked to Brian Barron, president of business operations for the Cleveland Guardians, about when he was in that backup quarterback position, which how many of us have been, the second in command in whether it's business or on a team or whatever it is.
Right.
And you thought this was a really important lesson for people to think about.
It's important to realize that Brian, when he went to Princeton, he was designed to be the quarterback, but just things happen, and what the young man that transfers in a few years later is the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, so the guy was better. Okay, and that's not something that a human being should feel cheated about. How unfair? No, it isn't. It's just reality. And how can I work with that other guy? The other guy. And so what ends up happening is he had the opportunity, as you heard, to be working as a receiver, but as we've seen in all these pro games, even quarterback can get hurt.
Yeah.
And the second guy coming in's got to be ready. The second quarterback prepares just like the first team quarterback.
Yeah.
But the whistle blows, and he may not play the whole game, but he had to be prepared. And that takes a special characteristic of a human being to be able to do that, because that's and it's something can happen. Oh, hey, he sprained his ankle. You're out there. Whoa. A mind explosion takes place, and now you have to get out there, and you get there, and your teammates in that huddle. Now you're the guy, right? It's just a huge experience for that. And if you think about that, and that happens in life for a number of people. Suddenly you're thrown into something, and make it happen, right? And that's a great characteristic for any human being, right? Is just ready, handle it, right? How many times you hear that? Handle it. And those people that have that composure and that preparation to go, I'm going to handle it.
Right.
They're special people.
They've been ready.
They're ready. They are ready.
They didn't say, oh, that wasn't my job.
And that's what that to me, that episode with Brad shows what it could be, right?
Well, and I think what he was saying about teamwork too, and you have much more coaching experience than I do. I've only been, and I can air quote coach because I was like the mom who would send the emails, but I'm there with some of the kids' teams, and when they get upset about a teammate drops the ball, literally or figuratively, or they wanted to be in this position, but coach put them in that position and they get upset. I mean, when we're teaching our kids all of these things, talk to me about your experience too over decades of dealing with kids who have disappointment, parents who have disappointment.
Right.
I mean, it's sometimes teamwork is lost on a lot of people.
Right. And the one thing sports really provide for young kids, notice it's not a life-changing moment, a tragedy or something. It really isn't. But it's you're on a court, or you're on a football field, and there's a maybe it's a pride thing that I wish I was the guy. Why am I not? I wish I was the guy. And what has to happen there is that maturity has to kick into gear, and you want to put your kids into that situation where everything doesn't work out just perfectly. That's the worst thing that could happen. There's got to be that struggle, both physically and really mentally, psychologically, to grow up properly. Psychologically, what a disaster if a kid goes 150-0, right? Never loses. Psychologically, that's terrible, because you never realize what's needed when that challenge is there. And to have that realistic event going, you know what? That other guy's better than I am. I mean, that's just reflecting honestly at yourself and being honest with yourself. That builds character and helps formulate your approach to other people as you go on. I think that there's such a learning idea. Certainly, there's no doubt about it. You set out in a game and you work hard to be the best you can be, and you dream about scoring the winning touchdown or doing that sort of thing. But as you put your talents into something, okay, you start realizing, especially team sports. And I coached track too, so there was individual sports. I do it say, but that ability in team sports to go, we're winning this together. We're working together. Okay, my name's not going to be in the paper tomorrow. That kid's name's going to be in the paper. But at this moment in this game, I don't really care about that.
Yeah.
We just want to get it done. That is such a growing moment. That's an important one.
Yeah. All right. Well, we also talk to a gold medalist, Tim Mack, who did pole vault for you. You mentioned track, so he was a pole vaulter for St. Ignatius a long time ago. That's a conversation I think you need to hear. We're gonna hear from him coming up after this break. Welcome back to Object of the Game. We're taking a look back at some of our best conversations. I want you to listen to this moment with Tim Mack from when he won gold medal in the 2004 Olympics.
Did the nervous trial, which is for every athlete very difficult. You got to finish in top 3. Here you walk in the stadium, you're on the runway.
Well, and
how do you handle this?
And that's the thing is, it's when people say like the Olympics is a pressure situation, it is like the absolute pressure cooker. And luckily, I had good people around me, and I followed my gut a lot of times. But having good people around me and trusting in Joe, knowing that like if you execute certain tasks, you will have an opportunity.
Okay.
You know what I mean? To jump as high as you can. So the gold medal, it's like even though that was gold in Athens for 4 years, it started to become sort of like a little mirage. It started to just sort of like disappear a little bit into more like, how can I get the most out of myself today? And so a lot of that was like what I remember, like when I was telling you in '96 when I was on the runway, I was thinking like, don't miss, don't miss, don't miss. Well, this time around, 8 years later, I had, with the help of my sports psychologist, I was on the runway going, keep your posture and hit your arms. And those were like 2 cues, two things that I needed to do in order to complete a task. And I had to trust it because I knew by process of elimination, whatever I did before didn't work. And I was like, this is going to work. Has to. But it's not different than execute in any other sport. It's like you have to do it. And I just sort of had to do it because I was forced to. So I was on the runway, and there's like, I mean, I could go through the whole competition, but I was I was at the winning height. It was the 3rd attempt. It was an Olympic record. I've never jumped it before. And I was in silver medal position. If I missed, I got silver. If I won or if I made it, I would get gold. And so it's like, silver's not bad. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But
this looks much better on you right now.
There was no email silver in Athens.
But well, that's funny you say that because actually after my second miss, I had 3 misses. So in every height you get 3 attempts. So after my second miss, I just remember going like, oh my gosh, you might get silver, you might get silver, you might get silver. I was like, I can't believe what's going on. I can't believe what's going on. And then I was like, I was like, you idiot. I was like, your email was gold in Athens, not silver in Athens. And that was the one thing. Like you would think like gold in Athens it kept me going every single day that 4 years. But no, that's the thing that flipped the switch when I needed it the most.
Wow.
So then it got me right back on. I was like, you're going to keep your posture. You're going to hit your arms. And those are pole vault terms. So we're not going to get into that technical jargon. But
it's a very technical event, needless to say.
So, but
watching
I knew
it,
it's like, that's what I needed to do. And so I knew the other American was favored, actually. So I needed to really stay focused on what I was doing. And so he jumped and he missed his second. So now we were both down to 1 attempt each. I mean, 1 attempt, like this whole 4 years, actually 8 years. And it's coming down to 1 attempt of a bar that I have never cleared. And it's Olympic record. And it's my 3rd attempt. 70,000 people are clapping. The 60-second time clock's going down. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? So I'm thinking like, keep your posture and hit your arms. And if people look it up on YouTube, they'll see me mumbling.
Wow.
And to myself, they're like, what are you talking? What are you saying to yourself? And I'm just like, keep your posture and hit your arms, keep your posture and hit your arms. And I had to do that till the very last second. I mean, when I was running, I was thinking about keeping my posture and hit my arms. Then all of a sudden it just became automatic. And I was on the runway and it was almost like slow motion. Like I could almost like move my pinky if I wanted to move my pinky. It was going that slow. And so I was going down there. I remember keeping my posture. Then I went to go hit my arms, which was like, again, pole vault lingo. But I did that and there was like something strange kind of happened. But then my body immediately corrected and fixed the problem like at will. And so the next thing I remember is I was on top of the bar and I barely brushed it with my shirt. And I know, I mean, we're talking 8 years and I brushed it with my shirt. If I hit it a little harder, it's going to just roll off. But I knew I didn't hit it hard enough because I've been jumping for so many years. I knew I just jostled it barely and it was just kind of moving a little bit. And I knew on my way down, I was like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a picture.
I made it.
There's a picture.
And there's a
at
picture
school of you like that.
But of course, in an old Tim Mack fashion, I landed and I was just like, yeah, like I gave out a blood curdling roar. And I was just like, and it wasn't really because I thought I won gold at the moment but it was more like I conquered this task. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But then, of course, I thought like Toby's got one more. If he makes it,
Yeah.
then we're back to the same old thing.
Right.
So I couldn't really enjoy it for too long. So I
Yeah.
had to be like,
Okay.
"You idiot.
Yeah.
Keep your posture and hit your arm. Don't
Yeah.
celebrate again. I can't believe you did that."
Yeah.
So,
And then what happened to him?
But then I knew he was going, and I was preparing myself for him to go. He was like, "Toby's gonna make it. He's gonna clear the bar. The crowd's gonna go crazy, and I'm gonna jump the next bar. You're gonna keep your posture." And I was like sipping Gatorade, and I was just talking to myself, self-talk. People always tell you it's good, and it's just like a tug of war, like the whole 4 hours. It was like one of the longest competitions. But I remember him going, and I'm like, okay, the crowd's gonna go nuts, and so I started preparing myself to jump again. And then I just remember hearing like, okay, he's in the air right now, and he's gonna be coming down. And I was like, wait a minute, something didn't sound right, because normally if somebody makes
they'd
a
go
bar,
crazy.
they go
Yeah.
crazy. But this one was like, oh, good try, And I
Yeah.
was like, wait a minute.
Oh.
And I never looked at anybody because I didn't want to like watch anybody vault.
Yeah.
Only because I didn't want it in my head.
Mhm.
But then I looked over, and I just see him like with the bar. I don't know. I see him like he wore a helmet at the time,
Uh-huh.
so he like threw his helmet on the ground, and he was waving to the crowd. And I looked on the pad, and the crossbar was on the pad, and I was like,
Someone won a gold medal.
what happened? I mean, is this
Yeah.
it?
So
I was
did
like-
you question it? You had that moment of like, did
Yeah, I
that
was like,
really
wait a
happen?
minute. Why is everybody? I was like, come on, guys, let's keep jumping. We're still trying to jump here. And then
Yeah.
it's like I was like, oh my gosh, but it's almost like I kept jumping, of course, but it almost was like it was past the moment of like usually people stop and enjoy that they won the gold medal, but
Yeah.
at that point, I was past that point.
Yeah.
I was past the point of that, and I was like, how much more can I get out of my craft?
Mhm.
Wow.
So I kept jumping and try to jump higher,
Yeah.
and then I ended up on with three misses, of
Yeah,
course.
Yeah.
but
I couldn't even go out with a make. I had to go 3 more.
well,
and miss.
yeah, but you had a goal. That
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
the
Well,
Olympic
I'm not
record.
gonna
You had
get
an
greedy.
Olympic record.
I'm not going to get greedy.
We want to thank Tim Mack. That conversation is phenomenal. And when we come back, we're going to have Chuck Kyle react to what he said and why it's so important in approaching life. Welcome back to Object of the Game. We are recapping some of our favorite moments that we've had from some of our guests, and we're going to continually recap. We picked 2 today, just sort of our 2 early episodes that, in case you missed it, these are conversations that you'll want to listen to, because I think it all applies to wherever you are in life, whether it's, trying to climb that ladder, remembering what it was like to play on a team, helping and guiding your own kid to play sports. Tim Mack was fantastic. I mean, that was a great conversation, because you don't always hear about how a gold medalist prepares. And Dad, you had a particular moment that you wanted us to share.
Right.
again.
I just think that conversation we had with him about the Olympic moment is just crucial. When he talked about how win the gold medal was he even has his email, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that is. Oh, and that's, you know what that is? That's motivation to work out. That's motivation to prepare years ahead, months ahead, weeks ahead, and so on. That's what that motivation is. But if you notice something, if you're on the runway and you have 2 misses, and this is where the moment of sports is just unique. You're not gonna have many conversations like we had there. When you're on that runway, there's one more vault to go to decide the whole thing, the Olympic thing. You're not sitting there going, I got to get the gold medal. I got to get that's the worst thing you could do.
Yeah.
Because there are multiple examples of when that happens, you're not going to do it.
Mhm.
It gets in the way.
Yeah.
The desire to be the champion gets in the way. So what has to be in your mind at that point? You're on the runway, and here's the pole, and you have to make a height you never made before, so on, is simply, if you heard him, it went back to what? Technically, I want to do a perfect vault, and he needed to do his best vault ever. I have to do my perfect vault. Chest up, arms high.
Yeah.
Notice what he just said there.
Yeah.
All that was just what he realized, what his technique needed. Gold medal was not in his thoughts right there.
Yeah.
I want to do right now the best vault I ever did. And if I keep my chest up and keep those hands high, I'll be able to do it. So he's running, that's all he's thinking about, right?
Yeah.
And it happens. When you're playing second base and there's a ground ball and you're not worrying, we got to win the game. You're going, my glove has to be here. My body has to. It comes down to just that focus on your event and doing it the best you possibly can be.
Mm-hmm.
That's so important for people to hear about, because I think any sporting event that happens, hey, come on, you're on the foul line, 1 second to go in the game and you're down by 2.
Yeah.
Oh no, I may lose the game. Well, yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay, deep breath. I always take 2 dribbles. I know I have to keep my posture, and just it goes into technique. That's what that showed us in Tim Mack.
Yeah, that psychological preparation, and you've helped kids over the years. Like, did you ever give them advice about, when you're going to catch that ball, when you're running toward the touch? Like, did kids get that, or is this something we should be reiterating?
Well, when the beautiful thing about coaching is the week preparation, and for us to be successful, these are the things that have to happen, and you practice that, and it drills on all the technique stuff. But there's this reminder is just technically what, this is it's the fourth quarter, and we need this drive, and you find yourself, hey, we have to stay on the blocks. Hey, we have to, be exact on our communication, just going over those technical things. Because what's going to win the game? Not, we gotta do this. No, it's technically at this point, we have to be at our best.
Yeah.
That's what wins the game.
Yeah. It was interesting too, because when he was talking about all of that, I've picked up tennis a lot later in life, and serving to me is like the spotlight's on, and you'd think that I would be okay with the spotlight, but I'm not. And the guy that I go to for tennis drills says, you need to read this book. And it was like the psychology of tennis, the mental game of tennis. So it's a book that is pretty well known and written decades ago, but he talks about like so this coach has always said, say your ABCs when you're doing your serve, so that you don't have that voice in your head going, you got to do this.
Right.
You got to pull this off, or else you're going to, lose this game, or you're going to blah, blah, blah. And so that is something I have practiced, to take my conscious and let my subconscious take over, which is exactly what Tim was talking about, was that it's our voice in our heads telling us, you got to do this, or else, it kind of throws you off.
Got to block that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the worst thing you can do.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing a serve in tennis at you're at Wimbledon, whatever. Okay.
I'll never be at Wimbledon.
I hope I win. I hope I win. Oh, if I don't win this point, I won't win Wimbledon. Don't do that.
Right. Well,
all right. I got to make this serve.
Yeah,
I know I want to get the height of the ball right. I want to bring my arm. Technically, just do it perfectly, and that's all you can deal with.
Yeah.
And you want the best serve you could possibly have. If you do that, you got a chance to win. Then.
Yeah. And what maybe you didn't hear, and of course, go back and watch the full episode with Tim Mack. But right before that, he was talking about, too, how, he missed the first Olympic trial. Then he tried again. And that second Olympic trial that he tried for, he missed. But that was where he said, well, I overtrained. And he was focusing so much on the physical training and not so much the mental aspect and psychological. And he talks about, that's where we picked it up, was the psychological aspect of the mental preparation and how important that is. And I think that that's something, sure, you might not be preparing for an Olympic trial, but how many people are preparing for, an interview or something that's, some sort of major event in life or something that's the mental preparation that needs to go
as much as you can say that second Olympic failure probably helped him win the gold medal, the third attempt. He kept going, which is wonderful, because he can reflect back on seeing, I didn't have it right up here. I got into a state of almost panic.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the top pole vaulters going into that second one.
Mm-hmm.
Numbers-wise, he should have been on the team.
Yeah.
He just had a bad day. Well, why you have a bad day? Your head wasn't into it, Moses. I mean, just, come on. Right. You know what you're doing. Your body knows what to do. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
And so he had 4 years to battle to get himself where, no, I'm not going to let that happen again. I've got to have my head straight on what to do and focus on being the best pole vault, the best vault I've ever had in my life. It's all going to be the technique. And that's what he did.
Yeah. Well, I think we've had a lot of great guests, but I'm biased. I feel like if you're watching this, go back and watch the one with, especially LaCharles. I've been telling a lot of friends about our talk with LaCharles Bentley, Brian Polian. We just talked to Brian Hoyer. I mean, we've had a lot of great guests. So make sure you're going back, you're watching some of the previous episodes, and you could always catch up on everything that we're doing on all of the Big Play networks, Big Play on Twitter, Big Play YouTube channel. You can download the Big Play app, available right now. That's where you can find all of the shows. We have a lot more coming up. We have a lot of great guests coming up. So make sure you stay tuned every week to Object of the Game. I'm Maureen Kyle. This is Chuck Kyle. And we want to thank you so much for joining us for this episode.